From Manila to the globe, this is World Newsfeed, bringing you the biggest stories shaping our times. Good morning, I'm Raine Musñgi. Let's dive into the headlines making a global impact. French President Emmanuel Macron plans to swiftly appoint a new prime minister to replace Michel Barnier. Barnier officially resigned a day after opposition lawmakers voted to topple his government. The veteran conservative, whom Macron appointed prime minister barely 3 months ago, became the shortest-serving prime minister in modern French history after he failed to find enough support for a budget aimed at taming a wide deficit. The Élysée Palace said Macron had asked Barnier and his government to stay on in a caretaker capacity until a new government is formed. In a 10-minute address to the nation held after meeting allies and parliament leaders, Macron reaffirmed also that he would stay on until the end of the mandate, due in May 2027. Macron further blamed the current situation on the lack of responsibility of opposition lawmakers and said the far right and far left had formed an anti-Republican front.
So yesterday the government lost a no-confidence vote, despite the concessions made by Michel Barnier to all the parliamentary groups. It lost a no-confidence vote, which is unheard of in 60 years, because far-right and far-left joined together in an anti-Republican front and because parties, which until recently governed France, chose to help them. I will never take the blame for the lack of responsibility of others, and notably lawmakers who chose, knowingly, to bring down the budget and the government of France a few days before Christmas. The mandate you democratically gave me is a 5-year mandate, and I will carry it out fully, until the end. We can't allow ourselves to be divided or to do nothing. That's why I'll name a prime minister in the coming days. I will ask them to form a government in the general interest, representing all the political parties who can participate in it, or at least who agree not to bring it down. At the start of the year, that government will draft a new budget, which is necessary to protect the French people from the automatic tax rises due to inflation, because I won't let the French people pick up the bill for this no-confidence motion. And it's also necessary to have this budget at the very start of next year so that the country can invest, as planned, in our army, our justice system, our police, but also to help farmers in difficulty, who were waiting for the budget, or come to support New Caledonia.
Sources told Reuters on Wednesday that he aimed to appoint a replacement in the coming days, possibly before a ceremony on Saturday to reopen Notre Dame Cathedral, renovated after devastating fire. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is among the world leaders expected to attend. Le Parisien newspaper reported the president had lunch with François Bayrou, whose name has been cited by French media as a possible successor to Barnier. An aide to Bayrou did not respond to a request for comment. Lawmakers of the opposition Democratic Party in South Korea plan to seek a vote in parliament to impeach President Yoon Suk-yeol on Saturday, December 7th, following his botched attempt to declare martial law on Tuesday. A party spokesperson tells Reuters Yoon's ruling People Power Party is divided over the crisis, but said it would oppose impeachment. With the party in turmoil and 2 years left in Yoon's 5-year term. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters marched down central Seoul on Thursday night, calling for Yoon to resign. Yoon's move sparked outrage in the streets and concern among South Korea's international allies. The defense minister who recommended the move has resigned. Protesters spilled into the streets chanting, "You are arrested, Yoon."
Our country's democracy and capabilities are not what they used to be. However, I believe that each citizen's strengths are strong enough to allow our country to recover quickly, and South Korea will regain its vitality just like it did in the past. I think the mental and economic blows from the recent declaration of martial law by Yoon will be quickly overcome by the strength of our people.
U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin no longer plans to travel to South Korea. That's according to two U.S. officials who told Reuters Thursday. That follows South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's botched attempt this week to impose martial law. One official said planning had been underway for a trip in the near term, but it was determined now that was not the appropriate time. Austin will leave office by January 20th, when President-elect Donald Trump is inaugurated. U.S. and South Korean officials say more than 10,000 North Korean troops have been deployed to Russia's Kursk region to take part in pushing back Ukrainian forces. The United States has 28,500 troops stationed in South Korea as a legacy of the 1950 to 1953 Korean War. The United States disagrees with Amnesty International's conclusion that Israel is committing genocide against Palestinians in the Gaza war. The State Department said on Thursday the U.S. continues to find allegations of genocide in Gaza unfounded after the London-based Amnesty International human rights group in a report on Thursday said Israel has committed genocide against Palestinians there.
We have said previously and continue to find that the allegations of genocide are unfounded, but there continues to be a vital role that civil society organizations like Amnesty International and human rights groups and NGOs play in providing information and analysis as it relates to Gaza and what's going on. But again, as I've said before, that we do not and have not concurred with these past findings regarding genocide. That does not change or alter the continued concern that we have as it relates to the humanitarian situation in Gaza. It does not change the continued concern that we have as it relates to this conflict's impact on civilians and civilian casualties. And we continue to stress at every turn that there is a moral and strategic priority for Israel to comply with international humanitarian law. And that is something we're going to continue to raise with partners in the region and directly with Israel. But ultimately, Saeed, truly the best thing that can happen if we want to see improvement in the humanitarian conditions in Gaza, if we want to see the remaining hostages returned home, and if we want to see an end to the conflict, is for the parties to work towards an agreement to stop the war. And that's what we're continuing to be focused on.
Also on Thursday, Palestinians searched through the damage and destruction at a tent encampment in Khan Yunis, a day after an Israeli airstrike killed at least 17 people and wounded several others. In the past year, Israel's military campaign has killed more than 44,000 Palestinians, injured many others, and reduced much of the enclave to rubble. On Wednesday, a source told Reuters that Donald Trump's Middle East envoy has traveled late November to Qatar and Israel to kickstart the U.S. president-elect's diplomatic push to help reach a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal before it takes office on January 20th.
Every minute for us is considered a loss of souls, a loss in everything. God is our Savior and the disposer of our affairs. People say, we are optimistic about the upcoming truce, however not. President-elect Donald Trump or anything else, it is all claims and lies, as they are only stalling to torture as many of the Palestinian people as possible.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken met with Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar on the sidelines of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe in Malta on Thursday. Neither Blinken nor Sa'ar made any remarks, but earlier Blinken said the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon was still holding, adding that any purported violation of the agreement that may have occurred were being addressed through a dedicated mechanism. Well, Hezbollah has paid more than $50 million in cash gifts to families affected by war with Israel as the Iran-backed group seeks to shore up its support base after a devastating conflict with Israel. Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem said on Thursday that payments of between $300 and $400 per person will total more than $77 million when paid out to all 233,500 families who registered. So far, Hezbollah has distributed the aid to more than 170,000 families. Hezbollah will also provide a lump sum for those whose primary homes were destroyed in the war, a year of rent for those living in Beirut or its suburbs, and those living outside the capital until they can move back home. Qasem thanked Iran for its financing of the effort alongside Hezbollah.
As Hezbollah, we will be alongside Syria in thwarting the goals of this aggression as much as we can, God willing. During the month of November 2024, Hezbollah decided to pay a financial gift, which is the gift of the Iranian people and Hezbollah. Anyone whose home was completely demolished and cannot return to it, if they are in Beirut or the suburbs, they will be paid $14,000 for a period of 1 year for rent and furniture, and if they are outside Beirut, they will be paid $12,000 in rent and furniture together. We thank the Islamic Republic of Iran, led by Imam Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, the state, the people, and the Blessed Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, because they provided this generous support.
Israeli airstrikes have flattened swaths of Shiite majority areas Hezbollah support base call home in Beirut's southern suburbs and southern and eastern Lebanon. A ceasefire to the 14-month conflict took effect last month, though Israel has been accused by UN, French, and Lebanese officials of violating it dozens of times. Israel says it is enforcing the terms of the deal and also accuses Hezbollah of breaching it. Meanwhile, Syrian rebels celebrated in Hama on Thursday after capturing the city during their week-long lighting advance across northern Syria. Some fighters could be seen cheering and chanting in the city, while others drove through the streets or pickup trucks sounding their horns. Celebratory gunfire could be heard in parts of the city, and residents came to watch. The capture of Hama gives them control of a strategic central city they never managed to seize before.
Feelings that can't be described. It's been 50 years. We've been suffering injustice and crime and oppression. The father and the son, the unclean al-Assad family. What do you want? They killed our children, displaced families, displaced half of Hama. This is a historic moment. It's a historic, a priceless moment. Historic, a priceless moment. God is greatest.
Well, Syria's defense minister said the loss of the city to Hama to the rebels was temporary and tactical. He said the Syrian army was redeploying outside the city to preserve civilian lives and prevent urban combat after what it called intense clashes.
I affirm that what happened in the city of Hama today is a temporary tactical measure. Our forces remained positioned around the city of Hama, fully prepared and ready to carry out their national and constitutional duties.
Well, after years locked behind frozen front lines, the rebels have burst forth to mount the swiftest battlefield advance by either side since a rebellion against Assad descended into civil war 13 years ago. United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said on Thursday, "Here is an urgent need for immediate humanitarian access to all civilians in need in Syria and a return to a UN-facilitated political process to end the bloodshed."
I emphasize the urgent need for immediate humanitarian access to all civilians in need and the return to the UN-facilitated political process to end the bloodshed. All parties are obligated under international law to protect civilians. Now, this latest offensive was launched into government-controlled areas by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, a group sanctioned by the Security Council, along with a broad range of other armed opposition groups. It has led to significant shifts in the front lines, and tens of thousands of civilians are at risk in a region already on fire. We are seeing the bitter fruits of a chronic collective failure of previous de-escalation arrangements to produce a genuine nationwide ceasefire or a serious political process to implement Security Council resolutions. These must change. After 14 years of conflict, it is high time for all parties to engage seriously with Geir Pedersen, my special envoy for Syria, to finally chart a new inclusive and comprehensive approach to resolving this crisis in line with Security Council Resolution 2254. It's time for serious dialogue.
When we come back, developments around the United States. Stay on BNC for your World Newsfeed. Good morning, everyone!
A platter of positivity, a cup of the hottest information, and a slice of what to expect for the whole day. With excitement, positivity, and fun. Join Paulo Del Rosario, and Asis Carrillo, and Monique Tuzon.
It's a beautiful day!
7 a.m. on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Magandang araw, Pilipinas! Sa bawat issue may iba't ibang anggulo. Sa bawat storya may iba't ibang kwento.
Himayin natin ang bawat sulok at bawat kanto mula sa iba't ibang perspektibo na madaling maintindihan ng karaniwang mamamayan.
Every Saturday na kami dahil to 11:30 a.m. Kaya huwag kayong papahuli, mga kababayan. Manatiling may pakialam sa mga issue sa ating bansa kung kaya samahan niyo kami. Dito lang sa Cuatro Cantos!
In the world of business, expansion is inevitable.
So I was a serial dater.
Not just a serial entrepreneur.
Yes.
You need fresh perspectives.
Different perspectives, different capabilities.
The sense of fulfillment, the sense of accomplishment. It's like you gave birth.
The relationships we have, how we treat our people. For me, that is the essence.
I'm Ces Orenia Drilon at ito ang Usapang Bilyonaryo.
This is The Scorecard.
Where you score the latest sports news
And in-depth views. I'm Anton Rojas.
I'm Erica Christensen.
Get ready. Be prepared. Get to the latest stories, updates, and reports about what's happening in the world of sports. Hosted by Anton Rojas, Erica Christensen.
Where sports is our business and business is our sport.
The Scorecard, 9:30 p.m. on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.
Welcome back to World Newsfeed. Advisors to Donald Trump publicly and privately are floating proposals to end the Ukraine war that would cede large parts of the country to Russia for the foreseeable future. According to a Reuters analysis of their statements and interviews with several people close to the U.S. president-elect, the proposals by three key advisors, including Trump's incoming Russia-Ukraine envoy, retired Army Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg, share some elements, including taking NATO membership for Ukraine off the table. Trump's advisors would try for forcing Moscow and Kyiv into negotiations that include halting military aid to Kyiv unless it agrees to talk, but boosting assistance if Russian President Vladimir Putin refuses. Trump repeatedly pledging during his election campaign to end the nearly 3-year-old conflict within 24 hours of his January 20th inauguration, if not before then. United States Speaker of the House Mike Johnson criticized the Biden administration on Thursday for what he described as reckless spending in its final months. He likened it to dumping gold bars off the Titanic. Johnson then introduced Tesla CEO Elon Musk and entrepreneur Vivek Ramaswamy, highlighting their roles in advancing a government reform agenda.
We're very frustrated by what the Biden administration appears to be doing right now, and that is, as you said, shoveling money. As someone said on a hidden camera on a clip that I saw, someone in the administration who's charged with distributing the funds said it's like we're dumping gold bars off the Titanic here at the end. We take over in January, and until then, the big government Democrats are still in charge, and they're spending money, in our view, recklessly. This government is too big, it does too many things, and it does almost nothing well. And the taxpayers deserve better. They deserve a more responsive government, a more efficient government, one that is leaner and more focused on its primary objectives. And that's the opportunity that we have here now. We believe it's an historic moment for the country, And these two gentlemen are going to help navigate through this exciting new day. Elon and Vivek don't need much of an introduction here in Congress for certain, and most of the American people know what they're capable of and what they've achieved. Both of these gentlemen have run very successful organizations. They're innovators, and they're forward thinkers.
Well, billionaire Musk and former presidential candidate Ramaswamy met with Republican lawmakers whose support they will need to win the sweeping spending cuts that President-elect Trump has asked them to find. Trump has named 2 entrepreneurs to a task force that aims for a sweeping overhaul of the U.S. government, which spent $6.8 trillion in the most recent fiscal year. Musk has set a target of $2 trillion in savings, though he has not said whether that would come in a single year or a longer period. The 2 chairs of the Department of Government Efficiency have called for firing thousands of federal workers, slashing regulations, and eliminating programs whose authorization has expired, such as veterans' health care. A magnitude 7 earthquake hit off the Northern California coast on Thursday, prompting a tsunami warning for a large stretch of the California and Oregon coasts. The National Weather Service said some 4.7 million residents were under the tsunami warning, which was called off later. It's a long stretch of the U.S. West Coast from Dune City, Oregon, south to San Francisco and San Jose, California. About 19,000 clients were without power in Humboldt County, up from near zero before the earthquake struck. California Governor Gavin Newsom visited the Otay Mesa border crossing, saying there was concern about damage north of the state.
We're concerned about damage, particularly in the northern part of the state, in Del Norte and Mendocino in Humboldt County. As a consequence of that, I just signed off on a state of emergency, a declaration that will allow us to provide more resources, provide some of our National Guard resources as needed, access to state fairgrounds, waiving some contractual obligations for that part of the state. It's another reminder of the state that we live in and the state of mind that we need to bring to our day-to-day reality here in the state of California in terms of being prepared for earthquakes. But early damage assessments are being made. We don't have any additional information at this time, but our teams are working collaboratively with the teams on the ground.
A Colombian coffee farmer federation dismisses any negative impact from the next U.S. government led by President-elect Trump, despite the leader's embrace of tariffs and a more protectionist approach. At the start of an annual coffee conference in Cundinamarca, Colombia, Federation head Germán Bahamon said they're not expecting any change in the export policy to the U.S. The U.S. and Canadian markets account for about 45% of Colombia's foreign coffee shipments. The crop's value should total more than $3.14 billion. Colombia is the world's top producer of washed Arabica beans, well known for their high quality and aromatic properties.
We hope that the policymakers of the U.S. government continue to see Colombian coffee as a reliable source for the American consumer. We are not anticipating any changes at this moment in export policies to the United States. Coffee is once again the protagonist of the country's economic development. So far, in the first 2 months of this quarter, the value of the harvest increased 108%. That indicates that the GDP of the fourth quarter will continue having coffee as a protagonist of the national economic recovery.
Colombia exports coffee everywhere. Everywhere there is Colombian coffee, everywhere there is a person who asks for Colombian coffee. So I think that on that side there should be no fear.
Well, natural disasters caused $310 billion worth of economic losses globally in 2024. That's according to Zurich-based reinsurance giant Swiss Re. This is 6% higher compared to 2023, which is currently the hottest year ever. Of the total, insured losses went up to 17% year on year to $135 billion, with the devastating hurricanes Helene and Milton in the U.S. and intense flooding across Europe driving up the costs. The Swiss company adds this is the 5th consecutive year that insured losses have topped $100 billion. Swiss Re, which serves as an insurer of insurance companies, stressed the impact of climate change with this year set to be declared the hottest on record. Meanwhile, the Vatican unveiled a new open-top Pope-mobile on Wednesday. It's an all-electric Mercedes-Benz that Pope Francis will use when he greets pilgrims in St. Peter's Square. Mercedes officials called the new vehicle the first all-electric Pope-mobile, but Francis has also used electric cars on some of his foreign trips. That's as Francis has stressed the importance of environmental issues throughout his papacy since 2013. The vehicle, a modified version of the German company's G-Class mid-size luxury SUV, has an elevated seat for Francis so crowds have a better chance of seeing the Pope. It comes in white, the traditional papal color, and features heating in the papal seat and a grab bar so that the Pope can use for balance when standing in the vehicle.
For us, this is a very special day. It's an honor to be able to present the Holy Father with the new Pope-mobile. It's a tradition that we have had at Mercedes-Benz that spans back almost 100 years now. And what's special with this new Pope-mobile, it is the very first car that is fully electric. So it's based on our electric G, but it's more than that. It's hundreds of hours of craftsmanship and passion of the team that has joined us here today from Mercedes to build a one-of-the-kind Pope-mobile. So as you can see, if you look at the back of the car, it's very easy to enter. But also the car and the chair, the Holy Father's chair, can be very easily maneuvered and swiveled. It was a special request from the Vatican to be able to, of course, greet people on both sides of the car, and that can be done without much effort. And you also have space behind the Holy Father for two more people that can sit there, that can accompany him on rides in this very special vehicle. With a chair for the Holy Father, but also every detail, his crest, the platforms in the back that the Swiss Guard can stand on. We even measure the size of their shoes so we know that it fits, and every detail is perfection.
The Vatican did not immediately say when the new Pope-mobile would come into service and declined to provide any information about the vehicle's security features. Mercedes officials declined to say how much the vehicle had cost. Francis has largely shunned the use of bulletproof vehicles, preferring to be as close to the people as possible. And that's all for now. Thank you so much for joining us. Catch up with us again tomorrow at 10 when we bring you the world in 30 minutes only on World Newsfeed. Follow the Money comes next. Keep it here on the Bilyonaryo News channel, always on top.